Hi, I'm Chris. Thanks for spending the time clicking on the video. I sure hope that this helps you in any way it can. First, I'd like to congratulate you on the miracle of bringing a new life into this world. It's both the most exciting time and the most nerve-wracking time that you'll have. And what I want you to know too is that that feeling is the same feeling that every single person who's had a baby ever has had. You're worried that you don't know what you're going to do because you've never done it before, and that's part of life, that we never know what we're doing, and you're going to learn a whole bunch of lessons and make mistakes, because we all make mistakes. I made mistakes, everybody's made mistakes, and it's not about whether you've made mistakes or not. It's about whether you can learn from those mistakes. One of the big things that's a problem now in our Western culture is that we've really forgotten the remembering that it takes a whole community to raise a child. And even if you have family in your life, the way that things are now, we're so separated from each other that even if your parents or family are there, they feel like they don't want to impose on you, they don't want to step on your feet. So what ends up happening is we're kind of left on our own to sort things out ourselves, when really the best thing that can happen is everybody sharing in the experience. And then what inevitably happens is when people do speak to us, they say dumb shit like, oh, get used to not sleeping, or hey, you're never going to be having sex again. And what they could be saying is all the amazing, beautiful things that happen when you have a baby. I remember the very first time when my son was born, my first baby, and this happened with both of my children. That was just absolutely incredible. The first time you look down at that baby, and the love that you feel is just so overwhelming. I remember just the moment I looked down at my son Liam, tears just started streaming down my face. And then in that moment, I was thinking, I'm not even having a feeling or a thought. It wasn't anything. It was just this overwhelming love it was just pouring and pouring out. And it's the most incredible experience that you'll ever happened. And then again, when I had my daughter Esme, it was the same thing, just an overwhelming love that you're filled with. There's so many of those things. The first time you get that sloppy open mouth kiss from that baby is just incredible. The first laugh, when you make them laugh for the first time, it's just incredible. So know that there's going to be a whole bunch of challenges, and challenges aren't bad. Challenges are just lessons that we learn, and it's important that we learn from those lessons. You're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and it's about making up for those mistakes, being open and honest with yourself and with your child, your baby, your children. And just realize that you're doing the same thing that everybody else has done since the beginning of time. Now, one of the things that I really want to tell to everybody is that there's this, what I noticed when I had our kids, and other people when they've had kids, is that what ends up happening is both the man and the woman end up falling into these two mindsets. What ends up happening, I'll talk for the guy's perspective first of all. What happens is the dads out there, you're going to go into provider mode. And so you're going to be so worried. So what happened is you're just some guy and you met a girl, and all of a sudden now you have a baby, whether it's planned or not planned. And all of a sudden you're in the real world. And now you're so responsible for these two lives, this life that hasn't come yet, and your wife. and you're going to be wanting to do everything possible to provide for them. So you're going to be going into overdrive mode. You're going to be trying to get the house fixed. You're going to be trying to work as much as you can to make sure that you have enough money. And the big thing to remember is the reason why you're doing this is because you love that baby and your woman so much. What ends up happening is because you're so focused on trying to provide and provide and provide, you end up forgetting that your wife's there going through the same kind of struggles that you are. Now, for the woman, what you're doing is you've got this baby inside of you, and you feel like such a responsibility that you're creating a life, you're worrying about what you're eating, what you're thinking. Everybody's telling you all these horror stories about, oh, it's so hard to breastfeed, and people are saying, oh, they're not going to eat enough, or they're eating too much, and you've got all these worries. You're worried that you're not going to be able to do it. It's just never-ending worries in your life, and the whole reason why you're worrying about this is, once again, because you love your husband so much and you don't want to let him down, and you love this baby that's growing inside of you, and you want to be able to do the best. What ends up happening is, because you're both in these worlds that you're kind of living together but alone in your own private struggle, what will happen is that the guy will come home, and you've felt alone and worrying all by yourself all day long, trying to nest and get the house ready and get all the clothes and get everything that everybody tells you you're supposed to do, and you're freaking out. And then what'll end up happening is, because you're feeling so stressed out, you'll put a demand on him or ask him to do something. And then from his standpoint, he's thinking, oh my God, doesn't she see that I'm just doing everything I can? And now you're asking for one more thing. And then so he's just feeling frustrated, and then so he'll be frustrated back. And then for the woman's, or the woman's point of view, what she's wanting is, she's just wanting you to hug her and hold her and say, it's okay, baby. I know you're doing the best you can. I know you're going to do great. I'm so proud of you. And I have no doubt that we're going to be able to do this together. And same thing in turn for the guy. What the guy wants is for you to say to him, thank you. I really appreciate that you're doing all this stuff, and I see how hard you're working to try to get everything done for us. And what happens is, we don't end up saying that. Often what will happen is that we'll be in these two separate worlds. There'll be this resentment that ends up setting in, because you feel like you're in on it your own. And you lose sight of the fact that the reason why you're both so stressed out is because you love each other so much. And so what ends up happening is, this resentment builds up. You end up going through life with this resentment, particularly the mother, because for moms, what it feels like is that you've given up your whole world. You're the one responsible for this baby, and you are responsible because you're the actual food. You're the care. Even if you're sharing the responsibilities, like I did with my wife, is that we were doing halftime. She would go to work, she'd express milk, I'd be with the babies, and we do the handoff, but what ends up happening is, this resentment ends up setting in, that's just slowly burning there. And then what ends up happening is, you end up going through life. The kids eventually will grow up, and they'll leave the house. And then all of a sudden, mom, whose whole identity has been the baby, the thoughts of career and everything, because of your love for the baby, you made the choice that I'm just going to be pouring all my love into the baby. And that's the thing to remember, that the reason why you did this is, you didn't give up anything. You gained this amazing bond with these children, which is just such a gift. It's a gift that no father's ever going to be able to have. You get to look down out of that baby's eyes when you're breastfeeding and get that oxytocin, that little love chemical that bonds you, and it's incredible. that's such a gift. So it's really, I'd really love for you to just recognize that you didn't really lose anything. You gained so much. And I know that you've put all of your dreams and aspirations of job and future and everything on hold, but you gain so much. And so what ends up happening is that you end up getting to the time when your babies have grown up, they leave the house, and then you're sitting with resentment, thinking, I gave up everything. Who am I? My everything, which was the identity of these children, is now all gone. And that's when the resentment comes out. And so I've seen so many times run into couples that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the dad's thinking, hey, this is the glory days. We're finally going to be in this place where it's just me and her, back like it was when we first met each other and fell in love before we had these babies. And so he's just been oblivious to all of this stuff. He's just been doing what he's been doing. And then all of a sudden, mom's just like, hey, I'm done. I'm sick of having my life not the way that I wanted it. And then the guy's just blown away, going, I thought we were good. And I've talked to so many couples that this has happened to. And some of the couples that I've spoken to, I've talked to the husband, and sometimes he's been able to go back and explain all of this, and the relationships got back together. Sometimes the damage has just been done, and it's too hard. There's too much ego, too much hurt, too much resentment. But it doesn't have to be that way. So just here to say that there is hope that things could get better. And if you listen to these words of wisdom that I ended up having to learn, and meet each other, and keep remembering that the reason why you're doing this is because you love each other and you love this baby. And don't get hung up about when you make mistakes. Like I said before, you're going to make mistakes. Just learn from the mistakes, own those mistakes, and vocalize them to the children. If you've done something that's horrible and you're not proud of, speak to it. Just tell them, I should have never said that. And in so doing, you're going to end up teaching that child that it's not okay to ever accept that kind of bad behavior, and that it wasn't their fault. I think that's it for now. Still kind of getting used to talking to this camera. I much prefer talking to people in person, but I can handle uncomfortable. I hope this helps you, and I hope you have just a beautiful birth and a beautiful life with the new baby that you've just brought into the world. Thank you, and have a happy day.